Welcome everyone to our episode number 133 or number 10 or the number that you want. We are going to choose the number anyway. So today we have an honor guest. We are going to talk about a very interesting topic about embracing life, embracing age, embracing how we can process many of the lessons. And that's the title of our episode, Embrace Life and Own Your Wisdom. And we are here with James Flaherty. Thank you very much, James, to be here. And
Delighted.
thank you for this interview because it will be an honor to listen many of the wisdom that you have acquired throughout your 89 years old.
Back then, only two schools in America offered degrees in communications, which I laughed. Now every roadside garage and chapel offers a degree in communications. But back then, and it certainly made me casi Latino. I'm still. That was what I did. So I was always a writer. So you say, how did I become a writer? I've always been a writer, and then when I would no longer owned a business because in by and I have a book coming out hopefully next month called Loving Longevity.
No, that's perfect to begin with. I think, and we were discussing Natasha and I before, just right before we entered to the podcast that, well, at least in Mexico, I also perceive that mentality of complaining about your age
Mhm.
and as you mentioned, retrieving for life from life and just not doing the things that you want to do because you
Mhm.
feel that you are old at 40 something or 50. And and for me that's just a mentality that I don't want to get immersed into, and I want
Mhm.
to get out from that. So
I saw a very interesting interview with a woman named Ellen Langer. She's a psychologist who wrote a book. And if their grandparents are up there and doing things, then they don't fear age. They realize that grandpa will kick my butt if I if I stop. She said, and you can either look at that person every morning and go, "Good God, another day," or smile bravely and cheerfully and say, and do that. I was in I can't remember. I wish I could remember the professor. He was quite wonderful. He said, I'm like James Michener, the author, who said, I can't say hello in 6 pages. So I, I, uh, I thought about it, and in 5 minutes, I wrote this, and I have that
Love
tape,
that.
and I have that taped to the bottom of my monitor. So it is, and every minute of the day, it is right in front of me, fine and loving and sounds good in principle, but on the same time, you cannot always say, I'm going to take care of you forever and ever. I say, hell no,
Mhm.
in terms of mindset. The other thing, mother raised me with the old fashioned, the golden rule, which has existed way before Confucius, and every church has made use of it. And the Bible actually states it almost the way it has, which is a lovely thought, but as a writer, I thought very awkward language. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Lay that on a 4 or 5-year-old, and they'll go, huh? What? Run that by me again. So I rewrote it for myself and my children when they were growing up. And
mm,
if somebody is hurt, or they're hungry, or they're thirsty, or there's a small woman with a 20-pound bag to put in the overhead bin in the airplane. And it's wonderful. It happened to me recently. I was in New Mexico, a state I didn't know, and I decided to drive across the state to my next destination, thinking, well, I have a half a tank of gas, that'll be enough. I can. This is not good, Jim. You're 89 years old. No one knows where you are. No one's expecting you. And your 9/11 is not around the corner to come get you. But I'm proactive. I pulled over, put on flashing lights, and I stood out in the road waving.
In a practical you choose. So I love that. And that's one of the practices that I have the same as you is I wake up every morning and I smile and I give gratitude for being alive and for in this age. And I love that you've defied that because I have my dad who didn't think he'd live past 35.
sooner than later, which is going to be harder on your wife, although I wouldn't miss you, I know, but she might, and your children might, and there may be one or two people in your life who can't assume that the body is supposed to just go on and on no matter what you do for it. So, you know, I say to people, of course you don't smoke. If you do, you should be slapped every day, you know, by somebody. And wait, I determined thing to do and live by it. So I decided 2 meals a day were enough. And it was really terrific. I'm not that I'm a vegetarian or a vegan by any means, but it was delicious. It was really, really good. The night before that was a steak salad. So you do that. You have a good diet. You shoot for, as I studied the blue zones, you know what those are, where there are more people living there are books out on it called The Blue Zones. A fellow named Dan Buettner discovered them, and he's written about 5 books about them. There are 5 places where there are more centenarians than any place in the world. Find yourself, develop the life that they have in Okinawa, Costa Rica, Sicily, Greece, and he has 5 specific places where they live their life. They're very interesting books, Natasha. You'd like them. Yeah, he's a terrific guy. He's very, very good. And I've then since taught a workshop on Blue Zones for Modern Elder Academy, which is an organization I love. You know, it needs somebody there. She needs somebody living with her. Elderly shouldn't live alone, by the way. That's something else.
The eldest one, I think she must have been about 4 or 5 years old, and we were doing bath time, and she said to me, in that fact, because it's like you say, it's you create that community. And I know with my daughters, when they can't talk to me about something, they can talk to my mom, which is pretty incredible, because she's a safe person that, you know, I can trust with their minds and trust their secrets and all the rest of that. So I think it's absolutely beautiful to have many generations and a real community to support. Oh, well, it doesn't mean that Portugal's not on the list later on in life, but yeah, no, my daughters need to finish school here for sure. And Scotland's beautiful. I love Scotland.
And I think that it's also where you can regulate your own emotions, because of course not every day can be beautiful, and there are some challenging days where you need someone to talk with, where you need someone to share your thoughts. And that is also,
do I really have to be me right now? Do I really have to be here? And I wish these people around me would turn into daffodils or something, or just disappear. Now, think of that person in the mirror as somebody to talk to and say, and it depended primarily on contacts, but then the rest of it was satisfaction with job and where they lived. And I was a big hot number at age 40 to 45. You know, I mean, you couldn't touch me. Boy, I was a madman. If you saw that TV series, I said that, yes, that was the story of my life, except no one ever got drunk or laid in my office because I wouldn't allow it. I was too about everything. But when I read The Happy Life, I gained more from that. And I thought, had I known why they think the way they think and why they do things. Also, being an innkeeper was like being a group therapist every weekend. The people are there for power play or for sex or for overeating or for a love affair or for something. And it was my job to figure out why and what. I also stage directed 216 weddings, which it was in a workshop. I was in a workshop in October with Liz Gilbert was on the dais. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, you know, and she's wonderful, wonderful. I loved her, with a 70-year-old Black African woman who had been sold. Also, there's something that I call crap shooting with your life. Crap shooting is a form of gambling, David, in case you don't know it, because you're a nice person in Mexico City. I know that. Where I won't bet $5 on a football game because I have no control over it. Like moving my family to Argentina for a job, leaving the marketplace, so I was out of sight for 4 years.
After having my head in the snow and my legs up in the air, and after checking that I hadn't broken anything, the next thought that came in is, when did I become such a puppy pants where I became scared of life?
Presbyterian only. 12 Presbyterian churches have closed in the past year. I, like many people, I did become a lapsed Catholic, or as my rabbi friend says, a collapsed Catholic. And where I stayed active in the church through my young married years, my wife, I have gone back to church and really have an obligation to the church. And I'm, and I think about, and I call friends who are having problems, and the regular attendance to church. And of course, it's not just going to church. What it is, I think, is that God, you are not the ultimate. There's something more important than you, which I think is very important. You live longer, and maybe you have a better outlook or a better attitude toward others.